Hi, Dr. Yass here. And in this video, I want to ponder a question for you. And that question is, can the MRI identify those people who are in pain? Okay? So, can the MRI identify those people having pain? So, right now, the way the existing establishment concept works is that you have pain, and then you get an MRI, which identifies a structural variation like a herniated disc, stenosis, arthritis, meniscal tear, pinched nerve, labral tear. Any of these structural variations, they're found for the first time at the time of pain, and therefore they are asserted to be the cause of pain. That's how it works. First, you have the pain, then the structural variation is identified by the MRI. So, what they're trying to do is attempt to make a direct connection. You have pain, structural variations identified, it's the cause of pain. For this to be true, the concept then has to be reversed and shown to be correct. So, now we're looking at MRIs and looking for structural variations, and upon finding them, are these people in pain? You got the concept here? So they're saying you have pain, structural variations identified, therefore it's the cause. It must go equally in reverse. Now I have MRIs finding structural variations, those people should be in pain. So does that hold true? If not, then you can't accept the idea that just because the structural variation is identified for the first time at the time you're having pain, that it is the cause. So let's look at the evidence. The first bit of evidence came in 1994, almost 30 years ago, where they did the first study on people with no back pain and found 70% of the population had bulging or herniated discs. People with no back pain, no symptom, are found to have bulging or herniated discs, 70%. A more recent study shows of those people over the age of 60 who have no back pain, 90% are found to have degenerative disc disease. 90%. No back pain over the age of 60 have degenerative disc disease. Another study. Of those people with no hip region pain whatsoever, no hip region pain, 75% are found to have arthritic changes or labral tears. 75% of people with no hip region pain have arthritis or labral tears. Study shows of the people with knee pain, 63% are found to have meniscal tears. Of the population that does not have knee pain, 60% are found to have meniscal tears. So what do you gain from this evidence, this empirical evidence, this study-based evidence? What you see is not what you're being told. There is no direct connection between having pain and structural variations found for the first time, because identification of structural variations does not indicate pain. It appears that the vast majority of people who don't have pain have the same structural variations. So if that's true, then you have to start to see that possibly you have pain from an independent, a separate tissue, and the MRI just happens to be finding the structural variation at the same time, but that in fact it's an independent variable. How do you know it's independent? Because if it was causing pain, then when the structural variation is identified without knowing if someone's in pain, that person should be in pain. And studies have shown as many people without pain have the same structural variations. That's it. That is scientific evidence to show you the basis of using the MRI is invalid. Now, over the last 30 years, I've actually shown that in more than 98% of cases, the cause of pain is muscular weakness or imbalance, an inability to adapt to the forces of gravity associated with doing activity, which leads muscles to strain and elicit pain, or create pain in a joint, or refer a symptom, or impinge on a nerve. And the nerve refers to symptoms like sciatica. 98% of these cases are muscular. Oh, that's right. Muscular causes don't show up on MRIs. So when we talk about this disconnect between having pain and identifying structural variations, this is the missing link. Muscular causes are accounting for the vast majority of pain people are having. And since they're not identified, but a structural variation is identified, the structural variation becomes the basis of diagnosis and treatment. That's why treatment fails. How do you know treatment fails? Oh, I don't know. Over the past 40 years, we've reached the point at which 130 million Americans and 1 billion people worldwide are suffering from chronic pain. You've gone through an opioid epidemic. You now have the use of marijuana for pain. They're doing radiofrequency ablation. There's 20,000 different other cults developing. Oh, pain isn't really from pain receptors in tissues. Now it's just popping out of your head. Clearly, this is still very prevalent in the world. Suicide rates, depression rates, all from pain not being addressed. Why? Because the original basis of the idea of person having pain and then being told that since the structural variation is identified for the first time, justifies that as the cause is baseless, theoretically, clinically, and scientifically. You are not privy to this information because no one in the medical establishment would ever want you to be privy to this. But this is the evidence. Theoretical, clinical, and scientific. So it's up to you. It's up to you. You must understand that after your last multiple surgery, back or joint replacement, revision, whatever, the problem isn't that you're just a bad healer, that they're doing everything right. You're just not responding well. You don't get to 130 million Americans and 1 billion people worldwide suffering from chronic pain if you don't recognize there's something systemically wrong. And it's been from the very onset of the chronic pain epidemic, which began in the late 1980s. Chronic pain never existed in the history of mankind prior to that. Once you recognize the structural variation is not the cause, then you could look to, well, what is? And the Yass method has proven that, in fact, muscular causes account for more than 98% of cases. Here's the theory that the Yass method uses to diagnose. The concept is that every tissue creates a specific series of symptoms to identify that tissue as the cause of pain. So we have structural a tissue in distress creating symptoms. Well, how do we identify that? By interpreting the symptoms, we could identify the tissue creating them. So this concept actually makes sense. It goes both ways. Structural tissues in distress create symptoms. Symptoms are the means by which you identify the tissue in distress. The Yass method is based on irrefutable theoretical and clinical evidence. It goes back to the theory of Hippocrates, which created the two terms, diagnosis and symptoms. It's up to you. It's up to you at this point. If you're still in pain and you're trying to wonder why, it's not you. It's not your fault. It is a system that is endemic with failure, unwilling to acknowledge that the basis by which the original diagnosis is developed is baseless. That's why everybody who goes and gets treated remains in pain. That's why you still today, 40 years later, have a chronic pain epidemic. It's up to you. You can make the decision. Start to recognize that the reason you've had chronic pain is because you've not properly identified the tissue in distress. The Yass method has shown in more than 98% of cases the cause of pain is muscular. These types of causes don't show up on diagnostic tests. There is no medical specialty educated or trained to identify them. There's your answer. See if that makes sense. Let it churn in your brain a little bit, and you'll see this does make sense. Now it's time to act. Now it's time to you to take control of your life. The beautiful part about if the cause is muscular is that you can resolve muscular causes. Only you can. You just need the education on how to identify which muscles and then how to strengthen them appropriately using Yass method based exercises, which include the use of progressive resistance, the ability to cause muscles to adapt to greater resistances until they're strong enough to where their force output is greater than the force requirement of activity, and you're pain-free and fully functional. So, if this is making sense to you and you'd like to contact me about your specific issue, you can do so by my email at drmitch@mitchellyass.com. If you'd like to take it further and actually schedule a Yass method session, you could do so by going to my website, livewithoutpains.com, and go to the Schedule Now button and click on that. It'll take you to the scheduler page. You can either choose an in-person session in Jacksonville, Florida, or a Zoom session that can be used anywhere around the world. So, by all means, take the opportunity to do so. If this video is helpful to you, then please give it a thumb up. If you like my YouTube channel, Dr. Mitchell Yass, please subscribe and click on the icon, the bell icon, to get notifications when new videos are added or when I'm live on YouTube. So for now, this is Dr. Mitchell Yass, wishing you a pain-free, fully functional life. Bye-bye for now.